Obligations with subtopic nature and effect of obligations, and this is already part 4. But before I proceed, let me just thank all of you who are subscribed to my channel, and if you can leave a comment or if you can like or share this video, please do so kasi on my part nakaka-inspire din gumawa ng mas maraming videos because I know that somebody is watching or somebody is anticipating for the upload. We are done discussing obligation to give, and that is your real obligation, as well as the obligation to do or not to do, and that is your personal obligation. We are also done with the breaches of obligations, pero ang natapos lang natin is your voluntary breach. Recall that the applicable article is Article 1170. So what are considered voluntary breach? That is fraud, default, negligence, or contravention of the tenor. And here, the most important part is the debtor is liable for damages. Another kind of breach is involuntary, and that is your famous fortuitous event. So in this video, what we are going to discuss extensively is the fortuitous event. If you will be asked to explain the concept of fortuitous event, take note of Article 1174. No person shall be responsible for those events which could not be foreseen or which, though foreseen, were inevitable, except, number 1, is expressly specified by the law when it is otherwise declared by stipulation or when the nature of the obligation requires the assumption of risk. Fortuitous event can be classified into fortuitous event proper, and that is the act of God, or force majeure. So it is a fortuitous event proper if the event is absolutely independent of human intervention, and it is force majeure if the event arises from the legitimate or illegitimate acts of person other than the obligor or your debtor. Also, fortuitous event can be classified into ordinary fortuitous event and extraordinary fortuitous event. So, kailan ba siya nagiging extraordinary? If the event does not usually happen and which could not have been reasonably foreseen, then that is considered an extraordinary. Example, fire, war, or if there is an unusual flood. If it is ordinary, that is an event which usually happens or which could have been reasonably foreseen. Importante requisites of fortuitous event. Number 1 is the event must be independent of the will of the obligor. Who is your obligor? That is the debtor. Second is the event must be either unforeseeable or inevitable. Third is the event must be of such a character as to render it impossible for the obligor or the debtor to fulfill his obligation in a normal manner. And last is the debtor must be free from any participation in the aggravation of the injury resulting to the obligee or creditor. 2012 bar question MCQ. The following are the requisites of fortuitous event except the choices are A. Cause is independent of the will of the debtor. B. The event is unforeseeable or unavoidable. The occurrence renders it absolutely impossible for the debtor to fulfill his obligation in a normal manner. The impossibility must be absolute, not partial, otherwise not force majeure. And the last choice is the debtor contributed to the aggravation of the injury to the creditor. The answer here is letter D. Reason, because one of the requisites is that the obligor or the debtor must be free from any participation in the aggravation of the injury resulting to the obligee or creditor. Another bar exam question, 2008, tingin agad sa tanong, can the labor unrest be considered a fortuitous event? So there are two corporations involved here, AB Corporation and XY Corporation. AB Corporation agreed to construct the research and laboratory facilities of XY Corporation. What are the terms of the contract? AB Corporation will complete the facility in 18 months and the total contract price is 10 million. XY Corporation paid 5 million of the total contract price. The balance is to be paid upon completion of the work. The work started immediately, but AB Corporation later experienced work slippage because of labor unrest in his company. The employees of Aber Corporation claimed that they are not being paid on time, hence the work slowdown. As of the 17th month, work was only 45% completed. Yung pinag-usapan nila, 18 months tapos na. AB Corporation asked for extension of time, claiming that its labor problems is a case of fortuitous event. So can you consider the labor unrest a fortuitous event? Answer, no. Basis is the requisites of fortuitous event. So kung kaya nyo siyang i-memorize, please do so because it is very handy. You can cite that when you answer the bar exam question. But this is also the answer of the UP Law Center. Just take a look. Ano ang sabi natin? Debtor not liable for fortuitous event under Article 1174, exception number 1, expressly specified by the law. So what are those provisions in the Civil Code? First, you have Article 1165. So when the debtor delays or when the debtor has promised to deliver the same thing to 2 or more persons who do not have the same interest, the debtor is responsible for any fortuitous event. Second is in Article 552 about the possession. So if you are a possessor in bad faith, you shall be liable for deterioration or loss in every case, even if caused by a fortuitous event. Next is your Article 1979 in deposit. The depositary is liable for the loss of the thing through a fortuitous event under these 4 instances. Next is your Article 1268. The death of a thing certain and determinate proceeds from a criminal offense. The debtor shall not be exempted from the payment of its price, whatever may be the cause for the loss. Next can be found in Article 1942 in commodatum. The bailee is liable for the loss of the thing even if it should be through a fortuitous event under these 5 instances. And last is in negotiorum gestu, Article 2147, the officious manager shall be liable for any fortuitous event under the 4 instances or circumstances. So just read, please take note. For application, let's take a look at this 2015 bar exam problem. Tingin agad sa tanong, do you agree? Why? X, a dressmaker, she accepted materials from Carla to make 2 dresses for her day. On the day X was supposed to deliver Carla, X called up Carla to say that she had an urgent matter to attend to and will deliver them the next day. That night, however, a robber broke into her shop and took everything, including the dresses. X now claims that she is not liable to deliver the dresses or to pay for the materials, considering she herself was a victim of the robbery, which was a fortuitous event and over which she had no control. So what is your answer? Of course, you do not agree. While you may consider robbery as a fortuitous event, but in Article 1165, if the debtor is already in delay, just in the case, same with the case of Carla, he shall be responsible for any fortuitous event. So this is also the answer of the UP Law Center. Another exception found in Article 1174 is your number 3, when the nature of the obligation requires the assumption of risk. So ano ba ito? It refers to a situation in which the debtor has full knowledge of the risk, but still the debtor voluntarily enters into some relation with the creditor. What is their basis? This is based on the principle of volente non fit injuria. So please take note, what is volente non fit injuria? That is, no wrong is done to one who consents. Example is your contract of insurance. So in the bar exam, if you will be asked what is the doctrine of assumption of risk, huwag magpanik dahil ito lang yung sagot. That is your Article 1174, number 3. Okay, just to emphasize, let's take a look again at the effect of fortuitous event if the thing involved is a generic or indeterminate. So the obligation is not extinguished The principle involved is genus never perishes. What is our basis? Article 1263. In an obligation to deliver a generic thing, the loss or destruction of anything of the same kind does not extinguish the obligation. How about if it is a determinate or specific thing? The obligation is extinguished, but you have to read Article 1262. Ano ang sinasabi ni Article 1262? An obligation which consists in the delivery of a determinate thing shall be extinguished only if it should be lost or destroyed without the fault of the debtor and before the debtor has incurred in delay. 2012 bar exam question MCQ: a debtor may still be held liable for loss or damages even if it was caused by a fortuitous event in any of the following instances, except choices are: letter A, the debtor is guilty of dolo, malice, or bad faith, or the debtor has promised the same thing to two or more persons who do not have the same interest. B is the debtor contributed to the loss. The thing to be delivered is generic. And last choice is the creditor is guilty of fraud, negligence, delay, or if he contravened the tenor of the obligation. The answer here is letter C. The thing to be delivered is generic. Just to recap what we have discussed so far, let's take a look at this 1983 bar exam question number 11. Cite 3 instances where a person is made civilly liable for failure to comply with his obligations, although he was prevented from doing so by a fortuitous event. So what are those instances? Number 1 is when the loss is due to the debtor's fault. Second is when the debtor has incurred in delay, or when the debtor has promised to deliver the same thing to two or more different persons who do not have the same interest. Next is when it is expressly stipulated, or when the law expressly provides, or the nature of the obligation requires the assumption of risk, or if the thing to be delivered is indeterminate and the obligation to deliver arises from a criminal offense. So this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.